So in Grasp the Sparrow's Tail, we had all 8 of the Tai Chi energies. I'm going to go through it real quickly to label them and show you where they were, because not all of them I mentioned by name. We're beginning with the end of repulsed monkey. We have push with extension of the left hip. Then we have elbow strike with flexion of the left hip, split with flexion of the left hip, press with flexion of the left hip, pluck with extension of the right hip, ward off with extension of the right hip, shoulder strike with extension of the right hip, roll back with flexion of the left hip, split with flexion of the left hip, elbow strike with flexion of the left hip, press with flexion of the right hip, push with extension of the right hip, push with extension of the left hip, push with extension of the right hip. And then we pivoted using split and shoulder strike. Those are the 8 energies. And I'm going to now demonstrate where all of these energies are in your daily walking technique, and how if you practice these in Tai Chi, these movements do translate exactly to the normal movements you do in your day-to-day routine. If we don't apply these energies correctly, this is what results in improper movement when we're walking. I'm going to begin with rollback, because this is one you may not see when we are walking, or you may not visually recognize it. So in rollback, we did this motion here. Flexing of the hip and turning the waist upper and lower right into it. That's rollback going backwards. Now if we're walking backwards, we actually use rollback in just that manner. Roll back, roll back, roll back. But we don't walk backwards all that often. But all of the Tai Chi energies can be used forward and backwards. Just like I used push going forward, push going backwards, push going forwards, rollback can go backwards, but rollback can also go forwards. Flexing my right hip and turning the upper and lower waist to the right, that's rollback going forward. And that actually is going to be the end of every step you take. When we place the heel down, we are using rollback going forward. And that is going to be followed by split, meaning I'm going to tuck my waist on the left after rollback. I'm going to use my lower abs turning to the left to change the weight. And then I'm going to do press, as if I was going to do press like this in Grasp the Sparrow's Tail. If I use the same press energy, that's what generates the swing through portion of the gait. So every step we're taking, if we're walking in a straight line, we're using roll back, split, press, and then roll back, split, press over and over again. Now, what if we need to turn? When we're turning, we are also going to begin with roll back. If I'm placing my left heel on the ground using roll back, if I don't plan to walk in a straight direction, all I did was bypass split. In split, as soon as my heel contacts the ground using rollback, I change the root to the left leg. That's split prior to walking forward. But if I want to turn to the right, I'm going to use rollback, and I'm just going to continue rollback. That's this energy here, until my forefoot hits the ground. Now I'm going to press, and that's going to walk me in a circle. There's one final of the 8 energies that we use that utilize flexion of the hip in normal walking, and that's going to be elbow strike. In elbow strike, our upper and lower waist turn away from the flexing hip. We use this anytime we're going to be balancing on one leg. We also use it if we're turning. I mentioned using roll back and then press to turn. If we want to continue turning, we're going to use elbow strike, flexion of the left hip, and turning upper and lower waist to the right prior to stepping around the circle again. We're going to go from roll back to press to elbow strike to press. Roll back to press, elbow strike to press if we're walking in a continuous circle. So those are all 4 energies that utilize flexion of the hip: roll back, press, split, and elbow strike. Now I'm going to show you the hip extension energies, which would be push, pluck, shoulder strike, and ward off. For this, I'm going to get a step stool because we don't normally use these energies when walking on flat ground, although we do use them when we're running. So if we're going to walk up onto a step or onto a curb, what we're going to be doing is roll back, split, elbow strike. So now we are in this balanced position, or central equilibrium, we would call this in Tai Chi. I have flexion of the right hip and I have counterclockwise rotation of the upper and lower waist. If I want to step up onto the step, I'm going to push, extend my left hip with torsional rotation on the left, and now I've pushed myself forward. This would be the same as pushing and grasp the sparrow's tail. Same energy. Push forward. Now I'm going to use shoulder strike by tucking on the right to completely change my weight to the stair. Then I'm going to use pluck, and then I'm going to use push. Now I'm going to show you going up and down the different energies we're going to be using. We're going to be using roll back, split, elbow strike, push, shoulder strike, pluck. Now push. When we're going downstairs, we're going to be using push with the swing leg. So we're going to change weight using split and elbow strike, just like we would if we were collecting into parting the wild horse's mane before stepping out. And then now we're going to step down using push. Extension of the right hip, torsion on the right. That's push. And then I'm going to lower the leg by using split on the right and step forward using press. So those are 7 of the 8 energies that we use when we're walking. The only one I haven't demonstrated yet is ward off. That's the most propulsive of the energies, and I'm not showing it here because we only use it when we are walking uphill, and I don't have a hill to walk on. When we're walking uphill, at the end of the step, instead of roll back, where we step down with the heel with flexion of the rear hip, we are using the same core rotation, but we're going to extend the rear hip in order to place the heel down when we're walking up a hill. That's going to be ward off. We also use ward off in running. When we run, propulsing yourself off the ground uses a combination of push, then ward off. Ward off is the propulsive energy, like this, that we're going to do that's going to get you off the ground. If I was going to do it in Tai Chi fashion, I'd be doing push and then ward off by turning the waist. It's that rotation of the waist from push to ward off, and you see how it propulses me off the ground when I do it there. When we are doing it in regular gait fashion and I do push and then ward off, it's going to lift the body into the air and begin the cycle for running. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it helps you see where the 8 energies of Tai Chi are and where we are utilizing these same energies in our normal daily walking routine. It will show you why cross training with Tai Chi is going to really help with your walking technique, with your balance, and with your confidence. Thanks for joining me.